Okay, we're back. You only know this because I'm mentioning it, but I lost a ton of footage on the last recording because I accidentally bumped into the camera at one point, and I guess that was enough to trigger the stop recording button or the remote that, makes it stop recording. So I had actually hollowed out her left leg, the side closest to you, put her back, put her outside leg back to the inside leg and talked all the way through that, thinking I'm giving some, primo newbie narratives and techniques, and then realized after it was all said and done that it had been cut off. But the crazy thing is that the other side is pretty much the exact same form as what I just did. So I'm just going to do it over and talk through that part. Now I'm working on hollowing out her right leg, which is right here. So I have my string, or my wire tool rather, which has, why can't I get into the camera frame? What's wrong with me? I can't find it. Okay, that has this wooden attachment to it on both ends. What I like to do is hold the attachments, the wooden handles together, and pull the string taut. And then I decide where I'm going to make my cut. So I'm going to do it just like I did the last one. Let me turn this a little differently for you. And I'm going to come in here and across. But first what I need to do is sort of maneuver the wire underneath, because this clay will stick to this platform a lot. So I'm not nimble. I told you I'm klutzy, so there's that. So I'm just taking this part of the wire and working it underneath. So I'm just sawing it in a back and forth motion to get it underneath that leg. And now that I'm pretty much satisfied, I'm just pulling on the bottom part to make the handles even again. I'm placing my finger right here so that the wire can't go past it, so that I can cut in. And once it's securely into the clay, like it is right now, I will just pull forward and separate this piece. And that's what's happening. So there, I have made that slice, and I'm going to remove it. There's the slice I just made. You can see the thickness narrows down, thicker towards this part, much more narrow towards the end, and I'm going to have to be mindful of that when I'm hollowing. I'm setting it off to the side and just turning the camera a little bit so that you can see. Now, like I said, I already hollowed out this left leg, and I hollowed in pretty deep. So at some point when I'm hollowing on this part, I'm going to meet that open space, and that's exactly what I want. Don't want it to be extra clay. I don't know if people consider sculptures of more value when they're heavier. I'll have to check into that and find out about that. But for me, it's not how much clay you use, it's how you use the clay. What have you come up with? Is the piece interesting? Does it speak to the artist's soul and then happen to speak to other people's souls? Because that's always the goal. So there, I'm pulling this closer so you can see, and I'll probably just zoom in editing, but I've created my line. So now it's time to go in and get to work. And if you've been following along this journey, you know that you use loop tools for hollowing out. Most of the time you use loop tools. You can also use my favorite tool, the one with the shallow concave, to dig out. The loop tools just work better for me. So that one has a triangular end. This one has a round end. And I'm just going to go right in with the triangular leg. And I also have to be careful because this foot is very near to me, right up against my torso practically. So I just have to make sure that I situate myself so that I don't lean into this foot and crack it, because the clay is dried on that the clay is dried on that significantly. All right, so this part, is just the hollowing. I'm going to turn the camera a little bit because I don't have to walk you through this part. And I shut up now. And just about 2 pulls ago was when I broke into the other side where it's already hollow. just rolling this back and forth, compressing the clay on the inside. This also helps me identify areas where I scooped in a little too much and I feel like the structure may be compromised. There's an area in here where I dipped down a little too low, and that's no problem. That's why I keep the shavings on the side so that I can go in and correct that and press pieces back into place and just build it right back up. So I'm just cleaning off the spoon tool, as I call it, the shallow spoon, and using it to press clay into that area firmly so that I don't create air pockets with the addition of this clay. And actually, I probably should have done this instead of using the ball tool anyway, just because it's pushing the clay around and leveling it out. Even though there's still areas I'm going to have to fill. All right, I feel much better about that now. So I've hollowed in until I met the other side. I'm going to move this platform back some so that I can get right into the camera for you. And we're going to hollow out this piece that's going to be rejoined to the sculpture. This part is thin, so I'll make the wall down a little lower, a little wider than I normally would, because all of these edges are thin and I don't want to hollow those out accidentally. So I'm just closing the walls in, making them a little tighter. I have a tendency to use this tool when I want a more controlled process and I don't want to shave in too deeply. I feel like it's much easier for me to discipline myself to remove very, very thin shavings. Whereas with the other tool, I have a tendency to just sort of dig in. I don't know why, because I know that the same can be accomplished with the other tool. So I guess it's just a psychological thing. And you will figure out, you know, what tools work best for you, depending on what you're trying to achieve with your sculpture. Okay, we're all done with that. So it is now time to reunite these pieces. Let me move some of these tools out of the way so that I can make that happen. And I'm just putting them back on top of the plate that holds my slip. And I'll remove that plate with the tools so that I can access my slip. That's the plate. Putting it over to the side, picking up the water bottle, adding a little more spray to those side pieces. Wah, 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 wah. And I've lost track of my serrated edge. Ah, it was under the bowl of slip, which is right there. So now, using the serrated edge tool as teeth, and cross-hatching to make texture. First, I usually do it in one direction, and then I come back around and go in another direction. You don't have to be gentle with this. I mean, you don't want to press in so hard that you cause the clay to break apart from itself or anything, but, you know, just rake it vigorously and pretty firmly because you want that texture to be deep enough for the slip to grab onto. So I'm putting that off to the side for just a moment, and I'm going to do the same thing, add texture to the rejoining area on her. It's an awkward angle coming up from the bottom like this. And I cut this somehow on a ledge. I don't even know how I did that. I thought it was a cleaner cut than it was. Still, all fine, because all we're going to do is rebuild that. So I'm going to take the tool that I pick up all the time, shallow spoon, and start applying slip to the areas, to the whole area that is going to have the missing piece applied. And you put it on generously, pack it, because we want that fusion to be very sure. I'm just going to spray this area with a little water. Not much. This was a very sloppy application, so I'm just going in and scraping off where I got a little insane. All that slip is going to come out again on that bottom. But I don't need that much. All right. I'm picking up this piece. There's a little piece of dried clay on it. Oh, it fell off before I could put it up to the counter, to the camera. So you just put it in place, line it up, press it firmly into place, wiggle it a little bit, you know, just sort of jiggle it, maneuver it, so that you know. Really nighttime. The boy took the garbage out and he's freaking out. So he's coming back, dude. So I'm just sort of applying pressure, trying to get that slip to come out. Hold on, he's right there. He's crying at the door. I think he wants to go in the hallway. Okay. I thought he was crying for the boy. He was not crying for the boy. He was crying for the hallway. He likes to go out there sometime and pretend he's in the wild, I guess. He just explores the hallway. All right, so I'm pressing this in. I'm going to take the tool to press the bottom part. That needs a little more maneuvering, and I can't get into that space with my hands in the same way. All right, so using the same tool, just to scrape off excess slip. Scraping it off right onto the corner there. You can see the seams. Excess slip. Excess slip. And now I just examine it closely, press pieces together, try to get more slip to come out, press pieces together, making sure they're very securely joined, and that same slip that I just scraped off, that excess, ends up going into areas where I feel like there's still evidence of a line. And for me, evidence of a line of that split is not something I want, because I feel like it leaves it vulnerable. Once the clay starts shrinking and dries, that it might pull apart from that area. That's a might. I don't know for sure. This is just me using my brand of logic for what I think is possible. Somebody who's been doing this for many more years than I have can tell you whether it's a greater likelihood. Work that excess slip right into there. And you should be able to still see that seam very clearly, because I can. So I'm going to take the back of the tool, press it in, and wiggle up. I'm taking the back of the tool and pressing in and wiggling up to join them more securely. Taking the back of the tool, pressing in, wiggling up.